Hey, this is SJ Talks Online coming back at you with another video. You're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button, please, and thank you. I was meditating the other day on listening to the Spirit of God, the importance of listening to the Spirit of God. And then I was just thinking of times in my life where, um, you know how you always say, like I know I say I had a tendency, or I've had the habit of saying something told me to do this, or something told me not to do that. And I know a lot of people have a habit of saying that, but that something is God. That something is the Spirit of God. It's not, we always say something told me to not do this, or something told me to do that. Well, that something is the Spirit of God. That is the Spirit of God talking to you. That's what I want to talk about, the importance of. I was meditating on that the other day, the importance of listening to the Spirit of God. Um, True story. And then I was thinking about the times in my life where um, that voice, um, that's God talking to you, telling you to run from a situation, to avoid a situation, or to do something, or to not do something, whatever. That's the Spirit of God. Um, and I was thinking of different times in my life where if I hadn't listened to that voice, which was God, the results could have been really detrimental. True story. I had went to, I was going, I can't remember what year this was though. I was thinking of that the other day. I was thinking of this the other day. I can't remember what year it was. I literally cannot remember the year. But I was driving a van. I had three vans. So it was one of the vans that I was driving. I went over to the other city to um it was a um I went to a open house, or no, not an open house, but a orientation. Maybe it was an orientation or something. I was looking into being a substitute teacher. I was looking into being a substitute teacher, and so I went to some type of orientation and it was in the next city. You know, um, it was at an employment agency. It was held at an employment agency, but it was in the next city. And so I had to go over there to do this orientation type thing. Well, I never wanted up being a substitute teacher, but I was trying to apply, or trying to get some information about how to go about being a substitute teacher. Anywho, um, that's where I went. So after I got done with this orientation, or whatever this was, to be a substitute teacher, I said, because every time I'm over in this city, um, they have a lot of things over there that they don't have in my city, and stuff like that. Places to shop and things like that, and eat and things like that they don't have in my city. So I went. I was saying, well, let me go stop at the mall and maybe do a little shopping. You know how us women is, and how we love to shop. It's like, let me go over to the mall and let me, do a little shopping, maybe browsing or whatever situation is, and then grab something to eat before I go home, before I head home. But God came to me, and I know it was God. But I said something told me, but it wasn't something. That something was God. Hit the highway and go home. It's just that simple. So I said, I better go home. I just said, I better go home. That voice came to me and told me, God's voice came to me and told me to go home. Just go home. It was that simple. Just, get on the highway and go home. So I listened. I listened to the voice, which was the voice of God. I listened. I know that was God. I knew it was God. And after I tell you what happened, you're gonna be like, "Yep, that was definitely God." Well, I got on the highway and I headed home. Sure enough, later on that day, I turned on the local news, because the local news covers um, that city, my city, and other communities surrounding. Okay, because this stretch of highway goes from it goes from that city, my city, to that city to my city, because right next to each other. Like I said, sure enough, I turned it on the news later on that day. And lo and behold, it said there was a pileup on that exact same highway that I was on earlier. It blew my mind. And I don't know what time of year. I believe, I want to say it was late summer. Because school hadn't, I was going to this thing about substitute teaching, so it had to be late summer, just before school started. It had to be. And the weather wasn't bad. The weather was fine. If my memory serves me correctly, the weather was just fine. If my memory serves me correctly, I just don't remember the year, but I do believe it was late summer. And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that it was nothing wrong with the weather. The weather was fine. No thunderstorms or anything like that. So that's why it was amazing that I listened to this voice, because it was nothing going on with the weather. Because if the weather had been bad, I would have, I better head home. You know what I'm saying? But I would have thought about that in a panic. But it was nothing. If my memory serves me correctly, there was nothing wrong with the weather. And this guy just came to me and said, hit the highway and go home. It was just that simple. And I said, I thought, I paused for a minute. I said, I better go home. And that's exactly what I did. I listened to the voice, which was the voice of God. So when I turned the news on that later on that day, and I seen that, I said, oh my God. I was like, I said, thank you. I said, thank you, Jehovah God. I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. But I was so shocked. I was just in shock. I just could not believe it was a pileup on that same stretch of highway that I was on earlier in the day. This was early in the day. Because I remember, I believe I went over there in the morning. It was a pileup on that same stretch of highway. Had I not listened to the Spirit of God that day, I would have been caught up in that pileup. I thought about it. I said, thank God. Listen, I said, just thank God. I said, I just was praising God and thanking Him all over the place. I said, thank God. I said, I just thank you. I just thank you. And I was just so relieved that I listened to His voice. So I was thinking about that and other times where I listened to the Spirit of God, and it saved me. It saved me from a very precarious situation. And it was other times too where I listened to. I'll tell you another story. It's another one, but I don't want to talk about that one. But I'll tell you another one. Back in the day, and I think I mentioned this on here. I don't know which video it is. I got so many of them now. I mentioned this. I know I've mentioned it in some of my other videos. I know I have. But to refresh your memory, and if you're new to my channel, I have a friend that used to do drugs. She was on drugs. I was in my 20s. Um, she was heavy into drugs. Heavy into drugs. I'm gonna let you know, if you know anybody that's on drugs, please do not enable them. That's the worst thing you can do with somebody that's on drugs. And I think that was the lesson that I learned and all that. Um, she was heavy into drugs. And she was taking me, she was having me go with her to purchase drugs. I was just enabling her. I was literally enabling her, letting her borrow money and amongst other things to, basically enabling her, you know. My boyfriend at the time, I said, I know, I said, am I being stupid? No, you're just being a friend. But he was wrong. I was enabling her because I was helping her to destroy herself, because drugs destroys you. She was on crack cocaine. Can I say that on here? YouTube is so picky. That stuff can ultimately destroy you. So I was helping her to destroy herself. That's what I was doing. Well, anywho, she took me around the world and back. She took me, to make a long story short, she took me around the world and back with this habit she had. One day she asked me I was living in this apartment complex. I lived in an apartment in a townhome in this apartment complex, but this is when I was living in the apartment. And she asked me, and that time it was just me and my son, to go with her on a drug run. This was at night. And I don't know what I was thinking. Like I said, mind you, I was young, in my 20s. I wasn't thinking. I got in the car, just listening to her and all that. I got in the car and went down the street. Now, mind you, my son was not with me. He was at the house or the apartment. Went down the street. So I figure in my mind, I'm thinking I'll be right back. Got to almost the corner. This street was it was my apartment complex, and it was another one right beside that, and it was a street going down to my son's school at the time. I got down close to my son's school, and once again the Spirit of God came to me and said, turn this car around and go home. That was Spirit of God. That time was very powerful. Very powerful. Turn this car around and go home. So thank God, once again, thank God I listened. And because I just had a bad feeling about it. I already had a bad feeling about it. I was already having a bad feeling about it. Listen to your gut. Always listen to your gut. If you get a bad feeling about something, don't do it. Don't do it. I was already getting in my gut. I was already getting a horrible feeling about it anyway. But that was confirmation. It was nothing but confirmation. When I got down close to that corner, close to my son's school, God came to me again and he said, turn this car around and go home. And that's exactly what I did. I turned the car around and went home. And I called her on the phone. I said, I can't do it. I can't do this. I can't do it. I simply told her I can't do it. I said, she got mad at me. Ooh, she got mad at me. And she didn't speak to me for a while after. I had the nerve to be upset. What was I going to be upset? She just doing me a favor. Because she wasn't doing nothing but she was stressing me out and taking me through all this stuff because of her habit, Because when people are using drugs, they don't care. When people are using drugs, they don't care about you. The only thing they care about is getting high. They don't give a damn about you or any, excuse my French, they don't care about you or anybody else. All they care about is getting high. That's all they care about. Is getting high. And so she got mad. She got really mad at me. And I had the nerve to be upset that she was mad at me. But I know in my heart that I made the right decision. I just simply told her, I can't do it. I can't do it. But the Spirit of God came to me very powerful. And he said, turn the car around and go home. Don't do it. And that's exactly what I did. Is I turned the car around and I went home. So that's another story. And so I have another one, but I don't want to talk about that. But listen to the Spirit of God. Listen to the Spirit of God, because that voice, we are, in a lot of times, like I said, I've had the habit, and I know a lot of people have the habit of saying, something told me. That something is God. That something is God. He's talking to you, and he's telling you to not do this, or go another way, or whatever the situation is. That's the Spirit of God. Never ignore that voice, that inner voice, which is God. And if you're getting a terrible feeling about something, that is your gut instinct. Never, 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 never ignore that voice. Never, never, never ignore. I don't know if I had to ignore God's voice that night and had to win anyway. Ain't no telling what would have happened. Ain't no telling what would have happened. I think about, what could have possibly have happened had I not listened. Well, I'm glad that I listened. But that situation to where I was in the other city and the guy told me to get on the highway and go home, that was powerful. I seen the direct result of what would have happened had I not listened. I actually seen it. That time I actually seen it. I seen the direct, when I turned, I'm telling you, my mind was blown. When I turned it on the news, my mind was blown. That had literally blew my mind. I was like, oh my God. That could have been me in that pile up. It was literally on that same stretch of highway that I was on earlier. And had I not listened to God's voice, I would have been caught up in that pile up. So that's what I'm saying. Listen to the Spirit of God. It is very, very, very important that you listen. Somebody need to hear this. I don't know. I might not get very many people clicking on this video because it's a positive one. I might not get very many people clicking on this, but whoever clicks on this video, you need to hear this. Whoever clicked on this video, you need to hear this. Because God put that in my spirit yesterday. The importance of listening to the Spirit of God. I was meditating on this yesterday. I was literally meditating on it. And then I was thinking about the different times where God came to me and told me, and you get a bad, horrible, terrible feeling. You're dealing with somebody and you're getting a terrible feeling about this person. I've had that happen too. Getting a terrible, horrible feeling about somebody. Horrible feeling about somebody. That is the Spirit of God. That is the Spirit of God giving you discernment, warning you about this person. If you get a bad feeling about this person, or listen. Or you ladies out there, you meet somebody and you're thinking about dating somebody, but you just, a bad feeling just comes over you. That's the Spirit of God. That's the Spirit of God that's warning you to avoid that person, to avoid them at all costs. See, a lot of times when you hear about terrible things happening to people, and I think in the back of my mind, I wonder did God come to them and tell them to not follow through with the situation, and they didn't listen. Kind of makes you wonder how many times, people get into certain situations. Oh, I wonder did the Spirit of God come to them and tell them to not do that, to not go that direction, or not go with this person, and they didn't listen. And sometimes you survive the situation and sometimes you won't. It just depends, you know, if God ain't ready for you to go yet, he might pull you through it. But sometimes it could be a situation to where you have to deal with some serious consequences behind not listening to his voice. And that's what I tell my sons to listen to that spirit. Listen to the Spirit of God. It's very, very important. That voice, we always say something. Something told me. That something is God. That something is the Spirit of God. That's what it is. I know I've always had a habit of saying that. Oh, something told me. No. That was God that told you. It wasn't something. That something was God. Because the devil ain't gonna tell you to avoid that situation. The devil is gonna tell you the opposite. Oh no, go ahead. It's gonna be fine. Because okay, the devil doesn't care. He doesn't care if something bad happens to you. He doesn't care. But God is gonna warn you. Because of the loving God that he is going to warn you and tell you to. And it's very, very, very important that you listen. See, I know God is real. And as some people say when they don't believe in God, I know he's real. Because, like I said, that day I seen the direct evidence of how real he is. I can sit on that same, like I said, it just blew my mind. Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know if there were times when the Spirit of God came to you and told you not to do something or whatever, or go a different direction or whatever, or not to deal with some person or whatever the situation was, and you actually listened. Or let's say he came to you and told you that through that voice, and you didn't listen. What happened as a result of you not listening? Or if you did listen, did you see did you see what happened? Did you get a chance to witness what happened that God prevented you from? And that was the amazing part of that day. That was the amazing thing that happened that day, that he allowed me to see the direct result. He showed me why I told you to get on the highway and go home. This is the reason why. I was like, wow, unbelievable. Unbelievable. God is good. He spared me, saved me from getting on that highway and being caught up in that pile up. Yep, that's the Spirit of God. He tell you not to do something or go somewhere with somebody. You ladies out here dating, he tell you not, you get a really terrible feeling about this. That's the Spirit of God. Don't never ignore the Spirit of God. Don't never ignore it. I don't care how bad you want it. Because sometimes people can want something so bad, or they're trying to do something so bad to the point that that voice comes up in them and they hear the voice, but they ignore it. That's the worst thing you can do, is ignore that voice. Like some of these ladies out here dating, and sometimes you're online dating. Because I used to online date. I follow my instincts. And sometimes women get caught up in wanting a mate so bad They want this thing so bad to the point to where a particular person that they meet, a horrible, terrible feeling comes over, but they ignore it. That's the Spirit of God, but they ignore it. Warning you about this person, but they ignore it because they let their desire for a mate overrule their instincts. You can't let your desire for a mate overrule your instincts. You got to always follow, especially us women. We have to always follow our instincts at all times. God tell you not to go someplace or whatever. Follow that listen to that voice. Listen, that's the Spirit of God talking to you. You listen to that voice. And then we are to pray and ask God to give us that discernment. Help me to hear your voice and give us that discernment. I'm telling you, I got those testimonies. I don't know, in that situation with my friend, I don't know what would have happened. I think my guess is something terrible would have happened had I not listened. Because she was just out there and trying to drag me and pull me out there right along with her, including my boyfriend at the time. She was we were both enabling her. Both of us were enabling her. It was terrible. It was horrible. And like I said earlier, never do that. If you're dealing with, I don't care if it's a family member or whoever, never enable them. Don't enable them. Encourage them to get help, but don't enable it. Don't enable them, because the more you enable them, you're helping them to destroy themselves. If they're on a deadly drug that can cost them their life, you're literally helping them to destroy themselves. And you can't do that in good conscience. How are you going to live with yourself knowing something happened to this person because of their drug use, and you helped them? You were helping them and enabling them. How are you going to live with that? I don't care how mad she got mad at me that day. She got real mad at me that day. I don't care how mad they get. They can cuss you out, call you every name in the book. It's going to hurt you, but you stick to your guns. And you put your foot down and you tell them no. That day I put my foot down with her. And I said, I cannot do that. I cannot do this. And that's because I listened to the Spirit of God. And I had got this terrible feeling in me that it didn't feel right, And I turned that car back around what God told me to do. I did what God told me to do. And I turned that car right back around and went right back home. So it is so important to listen to that Spirit of God. Listen to that voice. When you say something told me, that something is God. Because I wasn't even going to talk about that. I wasn't going to do a video at all today. But I said, God said you need to do it. Because it came up in my spirit yesterday. And then I got busy yesterday. I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. But I'm telling you guys today. Yep. To listen to the Spirit of God. Might not get a lot of views on this, but whoever clicks on this video, you need to hear this. Whoever's clicking on this video, you need to hear this. You need to hear it. Do not ignore that voice, the Spirit of God talking to you. Do not ignore it. Never ignore it. Listen. Because you could be keeping yourself from getting into a horrible situation. That's nothing but His protection. He ain't doing nothing but protecting you. Trying to keep you from getting into a terrible situation that could possibly cost you your life. Okay. Let me know in the comment section if it was a situation that you listened to the Spirit of God, His voice, or you didn't listen. Either way, and what happened as a result of you not listening. Either way, let me know. Let me know. Hit me up. Let me know. Let me know. Until the next video, hit that like button. Hit that like button. And until the next video, you guys be blessed.